I did.
So talk to me about what Tanya, and Tanya, you can chime in as well. Where did you like? What did she do to help you now create a brand at that point? Because that's an interesting time, right?
It really was so I had noticed on my own studies that the local business people, even if they had a national footprint or a regional footprint in the auction business or the car business or even peripherally in the real estate business, they had branding elements, right? But nobody back then was talking branding. It was just branding was left up to Coca-Cola or Pepsi or something, right? Some big corporations. Nobody was bringing it down to a personal level like Tanya's done. But Tanya had recognized that, especially in smaller towns, smaller markets, like the suburbs of Atlanta. I mean, when you say small, I grew up in a county that'll be the second county with over 1 million residents in it, in the metro Atlanta area. So it wasn't like it was tiny. But I knew from back then that there were some big agents, and you saw their signs, and you saw their billboards, and you saw their taglines. And so I'm like, well, I got to get to this. And so I started down those roads, but I was doing it like so many other people doing. It was choppy. It was haphazard. It didn't have any fluidity to it. There was no message. There was no content. Nothing flowed together. I had a company with a construction company. We had 6 crews on the road, taking care of properties that we owned and investors were buying. I was on the road selling properties at auction. And then I was trying to build up a brokerage because I saw the market coming back. We were selling off the REOs. We knew that it would stabilize. So effectively, I had this goofy script, logo, and a tagline, anything real estate. And
Pretty
I
broad.
hired an agent, right? And was an associate broker, and she looked at my advertising. She goes, "Oh, this is terrible. You've got to hire my niece." And I'm like, no, 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 no.
I
I
got
don't need,
this. I got this.
yeah, you see it coming. And the whole time she was calling Tanya saying, hey, Michael's expecting you to call him. And so finally Tanya did. So I don't know who's supposed to be calling who, but here's what I do. And I really was not in the mood to talk to her. I was like, look, I've had 4 others just like you, and I don't need you. Like I don't have time for this because you can imagine I'm putting out a lot of fires and while I'm trying to build another fire over here. And but the long story short is she started talking to me about it. She interviewed me. She figured out, what was a driving factor in my life, my personal life, and how that had webbed itself into what I did for a living, and where that had taken me, and then how to apply my life circumstances back to the need that people on the street would run into when they found me. Right. And she hated anything real estate right off the bat. But then I explained to her, I'm like, look, okay, we got construction, we've got investments, we've got auctions, we've got arm's length brokerage. We really do touch so many of the genres of real estate. We can handle anything real estate, commercial, residential, it doesn't matter. We want to focus on a few of those, but we can absolutely handle it. She said, okay, I buy it, but we got to explain it. So when people find you on the internet, when they see a billboard, when they recognize, number one, you, and number two, your message and how that applies to your ideal customer. And I thought it was genius. And so I just said, okay, you know what? I'm going to take, it's sort of like, you got a toothache. You don't go to the mason, the brick mason, to fix it. You don't go to the carpenter to fix it, right? We're going to go to a specialized person, a dentist that has gone to school to fix your tooth. And I felt like that's what Tanya did. She came in, she had 20 years experience of other people that were bigger than me and where I wanted to go and where I wanted to supersede at time, in time. And she saw all of that. And she said, just trust me and I'll get you there. And
What would you say that your message is, Michael, as far as like your branding goes, like your main message?
The main message for me is it's not about the people. It's not about the profit. It's about the people. And that's the main message that every one of my agents now carry with them. And the anything real estate tagline helps people to realize, if you're a buyer, then, we can help you. If you're a seller, we can help you. If you're commercial, we can help you. If you're a bank representative, we can help you. And then she took all of that information. She made, she streamlined it. I had 3 different websites. I had 6 different trucks. I had a different phone number on billboards than I had on,
right. You had to create the ecosystem, right?
I had to create the ecosystem to feed itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, to her, she helped consolidate that message, and then that's what Brand Face does for our clients also. Because people don't, we tell them all the time, we're amazed at it, people don't realize that you've gone through your life experiences to get you to where you are right now, and all of those, good, bad, or indifferent, have helped to form and mold who you are. And if you look at those experiences as a positive to where you want to go, there are other people who are looking for the help to get there.
Yeah, and I think
when you,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, yeah, just to finish, when you consolidate that message, then, especially in an internet-driven world where we know 75% of the clients are looking us up before they ever even reach out to talk to us, and then it's probably going to be a text or an email. There's a lot of that personality that's gone. But if you put that in your brand, you are going to attract people of that same thought process.
And Mike, you said something poignant that Tanya did, and Tanya, I want you to talk on this. You actually asked, who do you want to be, basically, right, Tanya? Right? Give me your story, and then from there you can kind of extrapolate where we're going to go, right?
Yeah, exactly. And everybody does have a story, and everybody already has, quote, a brand, whether they realize it or not. It just may not be honed, right?
Right.
And it may not be put out there in such a way where you're looking to attract a certain type of customer. And it all starts with the story. I always say a perfect personal brand is a mixture of a couple of things. It's a mixture of what sets you apart professionally and personally. And a lot of people are hesitant to put the personal part of things in there. But honestly, that's what people remember. Just like when we get on this interview today, we're talking about real estate, right? We're talking about personal branding. One of the first questions you asked me was, what about vacuum cleaner sales?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
And so even though that played into personal branding, that was just such an interesting part of my life to most people. And when we do all our speaking engagements, a lot of times at the end of those, I'll say, okay, everybody, what do you guys remember about me in this, in this room today? Half the room will say vacuum cleaner sales. The other half will say moonshine, because I come from moonshine. I come from the nation's moonshine capital.
Oh, Brad, you're into that.
You're into that.
Sure.
Yeah. See, that's the other interesting part. So, and that's where NASCAR got its start too. So a lot of people remember that, and that's where I grew up. So they'll remember those personal things, and it's so much more interesting to start a conversation with those things because you know the human being, right? On the back of our book, it says people don't do business with a logo. They do business with a person.
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
that's the truth.
Yeah.
I don't remember much when it comes to moonshine, but I know I like it.
You do like it, yeah. You do.
So, give us an example of an agent, like a story from an agent that you took them from what point of their career, maybe it's just starting out, maybe they were doing a little bit, and the path you took them down and where they're at now.
Okay, yeah. Let's see. We'll go with a story in Fort Lauderdale. We have an agent that is in Fort Lauderdale. She had lived the waterfront lifestyle for many years, knew the waterways like the back of her hand because she and her husband were professional anglers or competitive anglers. So they fished a lot. They knew the whole lifestyle. She had been a real estate agent for, I want to say around 10 years or so. And she never really felt, though, that she had broken into that waterfront luxury lifestyle, that she really was not known for that yet. And so when she came into the program, we said, okay, Teresa, we're going to take a look at, what really sets you apart. And what set her apart was her knowledge of that waterfront luxury, the properties, the waterways, everything about living that waterfront lifestyle. And so we began to showcase that, to highlight that. And she had never really considered her own personal life in that way before and how that reflected on the image she wanted to portray. So she began to pull that in. Next thing you know, her broker became so impressed with the new brand and what she was putting out there and began to see her differently that she began getting the better referrals from her broker to start with. And then it kind of spread out into the community. And now she's really known as, her brand identifier. We assign one to all of the people through the program. Her brand identifier is your home navigator. You think about that for a moment, that's a double entendre. Navigation is a term, generally meant for charting a path, a direction, like, navigating a ship through the water. And then home navigator, meaning I'm going to find your home. So we kind of meshed those two together and then put everything else with it, the message behind what she was all about, what we wanted that brand to look like, the image we wanted it to reflect. And I want to say it was somewhere around 6 million in referrals and not too long a time period,
Nice.
couple of months, I want to say. It was a very stark difference in how people began to see her differently.
Yeah, so and just so you guys understand our story a little bit, so we started our business a year ago, and it is very difficult to identify, and it's the first thing you got to do. We took
Did
a
I
lot
lose
of time.
you guys?
No, we're here. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
All right.
Did we lose him?
Did we
No,
lose Paul?
I'm here. Hello.
Oops, I believe we did.
No, I'm here.
It just went complete silent.
Try talking.
That has to be on their end if you and I are still connected.
I know. I don't know whether I'm still showing them.
Can you guys hear me?
I'm not. I'm showing in conference with Michael Carr, so I wouldn't be seeing him.
You guys are still on. We're having some technical difficulties. So, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
See, it says I can add a call. Let me see if it'll let me call them back.
Oh boy,
Interesting.
this show has been fun.
It's like anything that could go wrong.
It has gone wrong today.
happened
It is
today.
absolutely true.
Sorry for the inconvenience.
Nah, it is
listeners.
what it is. We'll see if they call back, and if they do, hopefully that we because that was some interesting stuff. Guys, can you hear us?
Yeah.
All right, there we go. We're having some really technical issues. Is Tanya on?
She should
I
be
am
here.
now.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay.
So what I was saying is our story a year ago, basically, we could hear you, by the way, though. Everything you guys said, we heard. A year ago, we
Okay.
started our company, and branding was a big part of, hey, who are we going to be? What do we want to be? How are we going to brand ourselves? And it was the most important thing for us when we first started our company. And, we made a lot of mistakes. So I'm kind of curious from you guys, what are some of the top mistakes that you see people that are trying to create a brand and they some things that they're doing incorrectly or maybe that aren't effective?
Okay, well, there's really two that come to mind for me, and Michael, you can chime in as well. But I'm seeing the lack of definition as one. Fear of focus. Fear of focus is the number one fear in business. And a lot of agents, most especially, think, well, if I focus on this particular geographic area or property type or customer type, then I'm going to turn away everybody else. And that means I can't ever do business with anybody else. That's a mistake for this big reason. If you develop your brand to attract a certain type of clientele, you're not going to be able to attract everybody. In fact, you don't want to. Michael and I like to say, if you try to help everyone, you'll just help yourself right out of business. And so you've got to have an idea in your mind of at least a primary customer type and a secondary customer type. And if the difference is, let's just say if your primary customer type is downsizers, empty nesters, it doesn't mean that you never again sell a home to a first-time home buyer. It just means you don't spend your time, money, and marketing effort targeting the first-time home buyer. You spend your time, money, and marketing effort where it is going to benefit you and them, the ideal customer, most of all. And as just a side note, a fringe of the business on the outset, you're going to be introduced to those people, to other people through referrals. It doesn't mean you turn that business away. But if you're super smart, you stay focused on those ideal customers and you refer out those other people that you can't help as much, still get a referral fee from them, but you're not wasting your time and money marketing to those people. Fear of focus is the number one thing.
Right.
Yeah, and I would add to that the lack of consistency. And we see that on a constant basis. Everybody, I think, has been guilty of it. I know I've been guilty of it 1,000 times until Tanya came around and helped me figure it out. We send out our postcards and we don't get any calls, and then we don't ever send out postcards again. And so, you put out door hangers, you don't get any calls, so you don't put out any door hangers again. And that's actually very counterproductive because it's, we know, especially in the world that we live in now, that people are bombarded. And so it's not good enough anymore. It's not like you were sending those mailers out to somebody that was a stay-at-home mom or grandparent or something like that, and they had time to sit and go through the coupons like grandma used to do. Nobody does that kind of stuff anymore for the most part. And so, what we have found too, that people are not consistent, and that's part of the brand face principles, is being consistent across every platform where people see you, so the message is the same. And then in your marketing efforts, being very persistent, and you're better off to farm a small area all the time than a big area every now and then.
Well, I think that's the biggest issue people have with marketing in general, is they don't have the consistency, right? Doing something for a sustained period of time is difficult. It's really easy to do X for one time or a period of time and then just stop, right? For example, Brad, we've been doing this podcast for how many years now? Like 3 years, right? This one specifically for the last year, and we do it every week. But like nobody really heard of us prior, right? But like it's consistent action. So that's got to be a big part of it. So no matter what you guys, Tanya, you can coach people into it, but it's up to the person to do the consistent action. I have to believe.
They do. Like we say, I like to say too, especially with agents, because there's a lot of different forms of real estate and ways that we can make money in real estate. And so it's hard to calculate the cost of confusion. And that goes back to what Tanya was saying with the focus, right? And we see people do that all the time when they get in our program, and they're just so scattered, and they don't know what to do. And, you have to train them to do something. Like, you would be better off to take a half a step every day than to take these long strides every other day or every third day, right? You're much better. But to your point, success comes from the consistency we practice when we can't see the immediate benefit of the result, right? If we build a fence, we know we started with no fence, we're done with the fence, now there's a fence. But real estate doesn't work that way. Real estate is a constant, ever building ecosystem. And you have to be consistent in all of your efforts and messaging if you really want to make a difference.
Yeah. Now, do you guys, I'm sure you do, but so in our market right now, social media has really, really become like the place where a lot of people are going to really just start creating their brand, right? It's the path of least resistance. They can, create videos. So are you guys focused on that side of it? Or are you going, with everything that you possibly can? I mean, talk to me about where your focus is and what you really kind of try to, move agents into more.
Okay, so our focus is we really try to be very I want to repeat this, but very focused in what we do. We don't want to stretch out beyond what our best work is.
Right.
So we stick to the define, develop, and display. And once somebody comes through our program, they have their new brand displayed correctly and consistently on what we call your everyday marketing platforms. So your website, all your social media channels, your everyday collateral materials like your business card and your thank you card, things like that. Everything you need to just do business on a daily basis. Now, from that point, they can take all those parts and pieces, the brand, everything about their messaging and what sets them apart, and apply to any other marketing platform or tool that they want to use for the rest of their professional life.
Got it. So you're creating the recipe. It's up to them to make the pie, right?
Absolutely it is. And we tell people, just don't forget this. Your brand is more like your strategy. So when you market yourself out there, there's two different things you look at when you put the message out there. You look at the strategy, and then you look at tactical things. Your strategy is your why. Why choose me? That's your story, and that's something that should never, ever change. That's the gold vein running through the mountain. The tactical things are things that can change based on what's topical in real estate today. The interest rates are still low. This particular neighborhood is going up right now. There's only 4 houses left. So tactical things would be, your strategy is why do business with me. Tactical is why do business with me now. And so the tactical part can change back and forth, but don't ever let who you are and your story change no matter where you market or what you do, because that is your point of differentiation. Everybody else can market on a certain community or a type of home or their interest rates. Those are all things that apply to everyone. Your story is the only thing that applies only to you.
That's awesome. So we're running a little short on time, so I definitely want to get. So we do 3 questions with our guests all the time. So I want to make sure that we get to that, and then I also want to make sure that people know how to find you. And I know that you guys are giving our audience a free gift, so we'll get into that a little bit. But let's go into 3 questions, and you guys can answer them individually, right? So first question would be, what scares Tanya and what scares Mike?
What scares me would be not living up to my full potential and not giving back to the potential that I had. You know, God gives us all certain gifts and abilities, and I believe it is our duty to put those to use in the best way we can, and to also give back and thanks for that. And it would be, my fear would be just forgetting that, and I try very hard not to forget that.
That's awesome, Mike.
Yeah, I think my greatest fear would be being average or ordinary. Whether that's thought process or whatever, I just don't want to be. I want to be different, and I want to approach things differently with a fresh new look. So I would think probably my biggest fear would be falling into the sea of sameness.
That's awesome. Next question is going to be, if you could spend a week in somebody else's body, famous or not, who would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. You know, one person that's always really fascinated me, but this person is long gone now, right? But I hope that's still.
No, it's okay. It still works. Yeah.
Okay. One person that has intrigued me so much, and his story that has intrigued me, is actually Walt Disney. A lot of people don't realize that, you know, he was fired from one of his first jobs because he was told he didn't have any imagination, and I found that to be stunning, and to see the empire that still exists so many years after his death today, and how it's built on nothing but imagination. That would be interesting to me.
Awesome, Mike.
Cyrus the Great, the uniter of the Persian Empire, most likely.
Wow, you went deep, Mike. You went way back.
I did.
Oh yeah.
I would have said Genghis Khan, but he tends to be seen more barbaric.
Yeah.
So, you know, I didn't want to be seen barbaric. But no.
You want to rule the world. You want to be like an oligarch.
Sort of, but
Yeah.
that's not what is attractive to me. Let me tell you what's attractive to a man like Cyrus the Great. Where he failed was we don't know more about him. But what I liked about him was he did not change the ideals of the people that he conquered. He accepted their ideals. So once he conquered them, as long as they would fall into the overall plan of the Persian Empire, they could keep their religion, they could keep their government, they could keep their way of life. Everything would be the same. And then what he would add into that is he would pull, you know, doctors from Asia, and he would put them over into in Anatolia. And he would pull, you know, he taught other parts of the country how to build bridges. He was the first one to in his region of the world there to establish a national education system and a post office, like a postal system, so he could transfer information. So it's not the oligarch part that is attractive to me. It's the fact that they saw something bigger and saw all this value, where the parts of the whole made a greater whole. Like the sum of the parts were greater than any of the individuals put together, and that's what's always been attractive to me.
That is super. I don't think we'll ever have an answer like that. No.
No.
That was pretty, the acumen in this room usually isn't that high. That's pretty good. That's awesome. The next question. If real estate tomorrow disappeared and you had to pick one other profession, regardless of economic impact on you personally, what would it be and why?
Oh my goodness, boy, these are tough questions. I would probably be a travel blogger.
Oh, nice. That would do. Yeah, that would be fun. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I would be a travel blogger, and I would go to. I would go on the pilgrimage to the Compostelo. I can't remember the name of it.
Santiago.
You guys are way too smart for this audience.
De Santiago.
I'm just kidding.
You may take that back sometime.
Yeah, right. Someone's gonna clip that. How about you, Mike?
I would do anything that was a vacation with a purpose. So like my overall hope is that, and I actually want to work towards this every day. I want to be able to see the world, number one. So some type of a traveler, but I also want to do good everywhere I go. So like if you know, maybe we can dig a well. for 2 days and spend 7 days by the Mediterranean, that sort of thing.
That's
So,
awesome. That's I mean, I think everybody here agrees that traveling is really nice, right? Especially Sal travels quite a bit.
Not really.
No, well, more than most.
I mean, more than the people in this room, maybe, but that doesn't mean much.
We're not travel bloggers, that's for sure. Yeah, for sure. All right, you guys have been absolutely fascinating. I love what you're doing. I think it's very on point to where we are today in the world, especially in the real estate community. I do want to have you guys back on at some point because we did have some technical difficulties. So I want to make sure that we get your story out there even more if we can, because I mean, what you're talking about is so poignant in today's market with real estate agents and what they need to do. I think it is necessary to be thinking about the things that you're talking about. So go into, guys, how people can find you. And also, I know that you guys are offering our audience a free gift. So go ahead and go into that.
Yeah, absolutely. If they go to brandfacetraining.com, just enter their name and email, and that'll give them access to 4 really good training videos on foundational personal branding.
Awesome. And then your website is also brandfacerealestate.com, correct?
You got it, brandfacerealestate.com. And if anybody does want to talk with Brandface, talk with us and share your challenges, your goals, we can talk about what it's going to take to get you where you want to be. You can go to discussyourbrand.com. discussyourbrand.com.
That's awesome. Well, listen, guys, we really wish you the best. Thank you so much for doing our show. I know we're a little show here out of Detroit, but having you on is going to add value to our listeners because a lot of our listeners are real estate agents, so it helps out quite a bit. So thank you so much. Anything you guys want to say before we cut you loose?
just thank you for having us on. Yeah.
Awesome,
thank
guys.
you so much.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. God bless, and we wish you best.
Same to you guys.
All right.
Thank
God
you.
bless you guys. Thank you so much, guys.
Bye, guys.
Have a wonderful day.
Bye,
Bye.
guys. So, I mean, I wish I had a Southern accent. You know what I mean?
too.
Like, I'm sure I could do it.
No, you couldn't.
No, yes, I could.
No.
No,
Yeah.
you couldn't, man.
No, never.
No,
No.
no. I mean, I don't know, man. There's some accents that are good. Like,
Well, it's interesting, right? Like when we have guests from, other places like California or New York or,
yeah.
I mean, when you talk to a client from New York, right? Like they're,
they're from New York.
hey, get to
dude.
it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what's the
yo,
rate?
yo,
What's
yo,
this?
yo,
You
yo,
know,
yo, yo,
well,
yeah.
what's
yeah.
going on with the interest rate over there in Michigan? Is it the same as it is in
Yeah,
New York?
what's wrong
But-
with you? Yeah.
But the Southern accent's always very calming.
When I used to sell mortgages all across the country, you'd have to change how you talk to certain people. You talk to someone from the South, I would have to talk slower. I would be like, "Hey guys, how you doing?" But you talk to someone from New York, you talk like that. They're like, "Man, get to the point."
Yeah.
But no, I think their story's interesting. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's great, and it clearly worked.
Yeah, you know what I
So-
mean. Those are all things that people should be thinking about. So, Jessica, today was fun. Like, I feel like I would have freaked out like a year ago, but now I'm just like, whatever, man.
I'm
4
really
months ago.
proud of you.
Yeah.
You've grown so much.
All right, guys. We'll chop this thing together. Thank you for listening. Until next week, we'll put it all back together. Bye, guys.